Hi, everybody. How are you? My name is Ryan Anderson. I'm the Associate Dean of Business and Entrepreneurship here at Mohawk College. And I'd like to thank you very much for joining us on another Center Snackable session. I would love to talk today with Nadia and Melanie, and we're going to talk about goal setting. And, a mentor of mine named Sam Mercanti, who's a local business person, always taught me that what doesn't get measured doesn't get done. And to have numbers, to have some things that you're aiming for, but most importantly, recognizing that there are some things that may get in the way that preempt you from meeting those numbers. So, but I'm gonna stop talking now and really learn from our experts in Nadia and Melanie. So Nadia, I'd love for you to take a minute or so just to introduce yourself and your business to our audience.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me today. I am Nadia Ishmail. I'm the owner of Stone and Shadow, which is a holistic boutique here in Hamilton, Ontario. We also have a wellness studio working with energy and Reiki as well.
Hi, Melanie.
Hey guys, I'm Melanie Wong, and I'm the proud founder of Olive and Splash Bamboo Athleisure Apparel. We make hoodies, joggers, tees, and tights from bamboo, and everything is locally made in Toronto. And we are also the home to the world's first drive-through clothing line,
Which we're going to talk about in a later session, because that thing is fun. I was telling you how much that's going to cost my family in our two teenage daughters in the future, right? So let's talk a little bit about numbers and goals. And one of the things that I'm always struck by is entrepreneurs get into business for different reasons. They get into business because they've got a passion. They get into business because they've got an idea. Somewhere along the line, the way real life is going to hit, and they're going to say, wow, I have me something. I've got me a business. How do I know if I'm doing well? And, my old life, I used to travel across North America helping businesses. And I had a man who was probably one of the best entrepreneurs within our industry. And I said to him, well, how do you know if you've had a good month? And he says, well, I don't know. I go in my left pocket and I look, and if I've got money there to pay the folks that are in my right pocket, then I've done well. And I thought he was kidding, but he was actually being serious. He went and he said, I don't have a management degree. I don't have a business degree. I just know that I do well because people are telling me I have a good business. And it hit me really quickly that although this is a person who's extremely successful, they could do better if they were goal setting. They could do better if they actually were using metrics. So I'd love to talk about that today. So Melanie, I'll start with you on this. What have you done to goal set? What have you set targets in your within your business right now that you've met, not met, and how do you go into actually setting metrics and setting targets?
Sure. So I take a snapshot of our landscape internally probably once a month of where we are and where we want to be. And I break it up. So think of like one of those pies, right? So we have social media, we have the bank account, we have marketing, influencers, we have new product. And so I break it up into all different like areas, and we set goals into where we want to be. Where are we now? And where do we want to be? So everything is its own little environment. So whether it's working with new influencers, what type of influencers, geographically, where are they located? What markets do we want to penetrate? How much more do we need in the bank? Whatever it may be. And then we set, I guess, the smaller goals to achieve the larger goals. We set a timeline to keep us on track of, where we are and where we're going. And so for me, it's important to always have always new goals, and to make sure that we're achieving our goals. And it's competitive within myself for sure. I'm super competitive with myself, and I'm competitive with last month and what we did last month. Okay, that's great. We've already achieved that. Why do we want to do the same thing this month? Let's do better. Let's do more. Let's grow. So yeah, it's setting new goals, and then the micro goals within it to achieve the big goals, and breaking it up and organizing it into different like subsections, I guess, of, we always need money. Money's good. And we need new influencers and new people, and new product and colors and designs. And so it gets broken down into it. And then, you just put your team together that's going to help you execute your idea, right? So it's one thing for me to have ideas and goals, and for me to achieve my ideas and goals, I need to have a proper team in place. And sometimes that team changes. It can change within, a few months. because we're not, if we're the same team and we grow together, but if we want to reach new heights, you got to bring more people, different people, diverse people on board to achieve those goals. And you know, it's some things are not just a job. You need to bring, I'm starting to bring other business associates on to help execute those ideas and bring it to a whole new life. I think there's a difference in just having a job and then having someone that can help achieve the vision, the big picture, right? There's small picture, then there's big picture. And to achieve that big picture, so it takes different talents all the time. And yeah, that's how I achieve my goals.
I think, Melanie, the one thing I would add to that, because I think you make some fantastic points. It's really easy as business entrepreneurs and business leaders for us to kind of get so attached to those numbers that we don't talk about them with anybody else. And you know what I mean by that is you know, one of the things that I had to learn sometimes, and sometimes the hard way as well, is if you've got goals, if you've got numbers, if you've got things that you'd like to accomplish, you can't do them yourself. And you know, so you really need to make sure that you are open about those goals, whether that be with your investors, whether that be with your community, and really most importantly, whether that be, you know, if you've got employees, they need to know that our goal is this by the end of the month with different things. Because how do they know? You know, we always say, if we're saying what doesn't get measured doesn't get done. Well, they need to know that too. And that's something that I think as business owners, there's a danger there in sort of keeping those to yourselves and hoping that we get those the end of the month, but not really going and making sure the people that impact those numbers the most also know that that's where the goal is. So I think you make some fantastic points. Nadia, how about yourself? You know, in starting out the business, did you have some numbers? Did you have some things you wanted to attain? And when you did or didn't get there, what was your response?
Absolutely. So being a little bit newer and moving out of a corporate environment and into, you know, everything on my own. The first goal I had was to make sure that it was at least the bare minimum was replacing my salary. So my corporate salary, that was my first goal. So ultimately what I generally have been doing, and this is with life in general as well, but with the business specifically, is looking at the last year, looking at the last 3 years, looking at the growth and looking at what that current state is. And, you know, putting my projections out there. So very, very first thing, like I said, got to make sure that the salary is being replaced so that at least everything's covered. And I had almost a zero starting point. That was the worst case scenario for the first year. The thing is, it's also important to look at it monthly, weekly, and with retail with the seasons as well. So thankfully, everything was absolutely incredible. We ended up quadrupling that in the first year. So now all of a sudden, my annual goal has had to change by looking at it month to month. So within the first 3 months, oh, okay, hold on a second. That goal is blown out the park, no problem. What do I do now? So it's constantly being able to adjust and reevaluate the current state and change your goals towards towards where the projection is now, or how you're moving. Really important to absolutely go to the experts as well, and making sure that the accountant has all of the information that they need. So the communication portion is really important. But when we talk about communicating, as you just mentioned, and making sure that the team knows that everything is out there, what I found is that we don't do that with ourselves enough. So writing down those goals, making sure that they're communicated with ourselves and they're very clear in a plan that may or may not change, that will change. Let's say that, let's be honest, it's going to change. But saying, okay, here's my overall goal for the year. Okay, every single month, pick a day, doesn't really matter. How are we doing with this? Doing the checkpoints constantly, checking with suppliers, looking at, as a retail operation here, I make a lot of the products, but require, I'm dependent on the supply chain. Okay, there's issues with that. How do we now adjust and look for more local, or look for making more products? So the goals themselves, as much as they are very, very important and must be reviewed on a regular basis, it's really important to be realistic in the sense that, okay, well, this week isn't quite what I expected, or this month isn't quite what I expected. Now, what do we do to plan to make the next season, the next month, the next week better? And again, using the resources. So just as Melanie was talking about, looking at the social media, looking at incorporating new ways to, to bring in the business or to engage people if possible. The goal setting specifically though, I've found in the last year and a half, doesn't work the same as in corporate world or in the old world that we were in a few years ago, where we can say, okay, well, this is kind of what happens, and this is kind of what the expectation is. This is how the world runs, and these are the gas prices. And so as much as it's really important to have those visions and goals, being able to be flexible and kind to yourself when you have to be flexible and change those goals sometimes, I think has been the most important.
It's interesting. I've got, I picked up on a few things that I think are really important for our audience to think about. One of the first things you have to do when you start a business is actually pay yourself. And often entrepreneurs won't think about that. They'll say, well, I'm not going to take an income, I'm going to do this. And what happens is A, you become broke really quick, and B, become miserable even quicker. And that you're almost going and saying, well, this is now impacting a lot of what I've done. And so some of the number one rules that I like to say to entrepreneurs when I'm doing some of my own teaching is you need to make sure that you're okay. Because if you're your only employee and you're not taking care of yourself physically, financially, mentally, everything else, your business is already in trouble. Number one. Number two, goal setting can't be really large. You can't have yearly goals. You need to have monthly goals, yearly goals, weekly goals, daily goals. I used to break them down by shift in my stores because then you sort of see where you're at. And I guess the third thing I really picked up on there is, and we've both, Nadia and Melanie, we've talked about this. Sometimes you don't achieve your goals, and sometimes you also blow them out of the water. It's really important to ask the whys and ask why that happened. Was it something out of our control? Was it something in our control? Can I change things? Or do I just have to accept the fact that sometimes we lose and sometimes we fail? Because that's a golden part of being an entrepreneur, isn't it? So it's really interesting. Melanie, just a question for you. What are your goals at now? I think as an entrepreneur, you have to keep setting them. You have to keep kind of meeting them, appeasing them, changing them, whatever it is. When lately for you with coming out of the pandemic and some of the things that you've been up to diversify, where are your goals at now?
It's a really good question. So we're working on building a team that we can help scale our business to the next level. And we've ramped up manufacturing to almost, I think, 6 times what we typically do. We're working with different industries that we probably wouldn't have worked with. And again, like being an entrepreneur, you're so creative. I'm creative. I try to do different things all the time. I try to do opposite of what everyone else is doing. My business model, my landscape probably does not look like a typical one, and I'm so proud of it. And so we're working with more sports teams and restaurants and hotels and spas, but everyone of all calibers. So, super, super high end to, maybe not as high end. But yeah, it's building the team, which is super important right now, and getting the right people in place. And I think just like any relationship kind of thing, you're gonna go through people, and that's just the nature of the business. Of people can take you so high, and then it's time to go from that level and get to the next level. And to do that, you need to always improve talent, and people are going to naturally come with that. Some are going to be able to harness that and bring it to the table, and some will have to be trained to a certain extent. But I think it's always just having fresh eyes and fresh legs. And I think that it's such a fabulous time to be in business, and I love it so much. And I love how the landscape has changed so much. And for me, it's awesome. And to be in business, I'm going to say it, there's no better time. And
it's so interesting because and we've said this now, you and I on a couple conversations, and Nadia, you were with us this morning when we talked about the fact that many people right now think that this is the worst time to be in small business. And the three of us actually agree that it's actually, I think, the best time, because the playing field's been leveled. You now are able to be in creative, new. You're able to go and go places you couldn't do before. And you kind of can do it in a way that, you know, a lot of the different boundaries have been erased. So this is a good time to be in business. It really is. And I hope that people see that. It's hard. I mean, we're all coming from underneath rocks for the last 2 years, right? But it's there's some good things out there. There really are for new entrepreneurs and established entrepreneurs. Nadia, last sort of word to you on goal setting. You know, where are you at with your goals right now? Have you had to reset them, have to address them, and where do you see yourself wanting to go now in the future?
Yeah, it's been an incredible path over the last year and a half, especially. So being a smaller location and very specific boutique feel, it has definitely evolved with our online business as well as you know, the studio. So incredibly, absolutely, there's actually some potential opportunities that I am looking at expanding with a little bit of a different model, more collaborative, and really continuously focusing on the holistic healing aspect of it. So this has actually opened up a lot of doors for me, even though, again, it is you know, it is a very humble location, a very smaller touch point, I guess you could say, in regards to a lot of different spaces, but it's actually opened up our reach so much into the US, especially. We've done some work worldwide, but absolutely, it looks like we're going to be doing some fantastic new expansions in the near future, and I'm just kind of working on those, preparing for some of that groundwork to be started early next year. So 100%, it has been. It's been a blessing in that sense, but the ultimate thing, again, is just being open to those opportunities that I may not have considered a year ago, may not have even thought of the concept a year ago, but with the things changing, and again, looking at the needs for the environments that we're in right now, it's a lot of growth potential right now. So very excited about that.
So I guess the takeaway there is just be open. You know, as much as you want to set goals and you want to have metrics and numbers, it doesn't mean that you can't sort of take a quick right-hand turn or left-hand turn if you think you need to. And I think that's where entrepreneurship differs from corporate business, and that you know, you've worked in there where you had to go through 9 different layers, and I know I had to. And as an entrepreneur, and you know, Melanie, I know you've done this recently with some of your things. You can just do it. You just do it. And if it's good, it's great. And if it's bad, then we'll do something different. And that to me might be one of the most enthusiastic things about being an entrepreneur is you just get to do it. And that's something that in a lot of ways I miss. In a lot of ways, I also look back at and say, wow, that was cool. How you could just sort of go and say, yeah, you know what? I sucked. It didn't suck, so I did it well. So it was good. So Nadia, Melanie, thank you so much for your talk today, and for the other talks as well. And I know that our participants would learn a ton from what you've been able to offer them, and on goal setting and metrics, and sort of, you know, knowing where you are, knowing why you're there, and where you want to go. So I do appreciate your time today, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you.
Of course. Thank you so much.